Hi guys, I'm presenting on case number 29, Take 'em Down NOLA. So first, a little bit of history on New Orleans. It was established in 1719. It was nicknamed the Crescent City and was isolated from the mainland for 250 years. Due to its isolation, New Orleans became really distinctive and kind of came up with the things that it's famous for today, like Cajun food, Mardi Gras, and jazz music. There are now 393,000 inhabitants in New Orleans. 60% are African American and 30% are white. Then the Cult of the Lost Cause was a movement developed by white Southerners, including Confederate leaders and people who really just romanticized the Old South and glorified its war heroes. The Confederate symbols that I'll be talking about were a part of the Lost Cause movement, and it kind of showed that there was no remorse for the Civil War. The Southern Poverty Law Center explained that efforts to resegregate society occurred after Reconstruction ended in 1877, and then by 1900, states were enacting Jim Crow laws and the KKK resurfaced. And Jim Crow laws are laws that enforce racial segregation. Then a little bit about the Black Lives Matter movement. It was created in 2013 after George Zimmerman was cleared after shooting Trayvon Martin and killing him in Florida. So following the tragedy, a lot more instances like that were popping up that were really controversial, dealing with African American males and police officers. So street rallies and protests, all in response for this, was a cry for help, a cry for police reform and racial justice. The Stars and Bars flag removal occurred after Dylan Roof killed 9 prayer meeting attendees in a South Carolina church. Then photos of him resurfaced of him holding a Confederate flag and just really declaring a racial war. So in response, South Carolina, the entire state, and Montgomery, Alabama, which are 2 Confederacy places, they removed the Confederate flags from their state capitol grounds. But that wasn't really enough. It was a lot, but it wasn't enough. So people wanted more taken down. There were so many monuments, public schools, counties, cities, holidays, and military bases all named after Confederate icons. There were 4 New Orleans Confederate symbols that were asked to be taken down. They included the Battle of Liberty Place, Jefferson Davis statue, PGT Beauregard statue, and the Robert E. Lee statue. So the New Orleans City Council had to consider a few things. First, did they honor ideologies in conflict with equal protection requirements? Second, do they suggest the supremacy of one race, religion, or ethnic group over another? Third, have they become the site of violent demonstrations that pose a threat? And lastly, does it constitute an unreasonable expense? So then the public debate began. There were 2 sides, people who were for it and people who were against it. The arguments for the people who were for the removal said, they celebrate men who committed treason, maintaining the monuments requires taxpayer dollars, they're associated with slavery, it trivializes African Americans and ignores their heritage and hardships, and removing the monuments is making history, not erasing it. On the other side, the arguments for opposing the removal, they said that using taxpayer dollars to remove them would be costly, statues are not a nuisance but a work of art, the Civil War is an important part of history, removal of the monuments would be comparable to destruction of arts and architecture by terror group ISIS, and it represents the state's identity. They said, you can't change history, but you can learn from it. And lastly, they said that it was proof that society has come a long way since then. So eventually the City Council approves the removal that will happen on December 17th, 2015. Then after a very long legal debate, the first monument came down on April 24th, 2017. On the day of the final monument being removed, the mayor of New Orleans held a speech. The activists believed that they didn't get enough recognition for their efforts in his speech. They really wanted more monuments taken down as well, and they accused the mayor of taking credit for earlier activist work. But regardless of the backlash that the mayor got, he was awarded the JFK Profile and Courage Award for his leadership in removing 4 Confederate monuments in New Orleans while offering candid, clean, compassionate reflections on the moment and its place in history. So, who are the stakeholders in this case? taking down NOLA and all other activist groups, taxpayers, African Americans, and people who were against the removal of the monument. On top of that, of course, the city council and just the rest of the population of New Orleans. So for the PR plan, the main goal for the city was to just do what was right without kind of stirring up anger from the opposing side. And what was right was obviously to remove the monuments. All stakeholders in this case remained transparent and stuck to their personal beliefs, which was good, but overall, I don't think PR was utilized like it could have been. What could have been done differently? I think activists could have utilized social media to kind of gain a following, similar to the Black Lives Matter movement, how they came up with a hashtag and it blew up completely. I think the city council could have reached the public through press releases to kind of keep everyone updated. I think the mayor could have given the activists more attention and credit where it was due, obviously. And I think the monuments should have been preserved and donated to a historical museum so that a part of the history can still remain as something to learn from. This also could have prevented a lot of backlash from people who were against the removal because they wouldn't be going to waste. They would have some use in the city. Lastly, I think that taking down NOLA in collaboration with the mayor, they could have held, educational events regarding the Confederate history in the area, which could have given them a bigger following too. About the removals, the people who were against them being taken down, they held their own protests and marches, and one instance even led to a contractor's car getting set on fire while he was working on the site. But since the removals, people were celebrating, holding picnics at the former statue sites, but the others who were opposed to it reacted pretty aggressively towards the supporters. But since then, all of the monuments, they remain locked up in storage where they'll likely be for a while. My first discussion question is, what are some ways a PR professional could have addressed the cult of the lost cause to help New Orleans move forward? My second question is, Take 'em Down NOLA is the activist group that urged taking the monuments down. What are some tactics they could have used to fight their side of the debate more efficiently? And lastly, as a PR professional, how would you have handled and responded to the vandalism from the population that was against the removal of the monuments?